There is a man who could buy entire nations, who could purchase every dream ever sold. He owns roughly 1,100,000 bitcoins. Today, that is more than $100 billion, enough to rank among the 10 richest humans alive, enough to never work again, never want again, never fear again. Yet not one Satoshi has ever moved. Not when Bitcoin hit 20,000, not when it touched 69,000, not when it climbed past 100,000, not even during the quiet nights when anyone else would have cracked. This is not restraint. This is discipline carved into bone, a monk's vow taken in code, a king who abdicated before coronation. He turned his back on more money than human minds can comfortably hold, and simply walked away. The fortune remains, untouched, unclaimed, growing fatter in the dark, waiting for a ghost who refuses to return. Only the man who never wanted to be found. In the 1990s, a loose army of mathematicians, hackers, and libertarians called themselves cypherpunks. They believed privacy was not a luxury, it was oxygen. Strong cryptography, they said, would be the weapon that finally made the state obsolete. Their manifesto ended with a warning. If you don't care about privacy, you don't care about freedom. They built prototypes, beautiful ones. David Chaum's DigiCash, anonymous electronic cash, blinded signatures, mathematically perfect. It worked. Banks tested it, then refused to use it. Because one company controlled the ledger, one pillar, one point of failure. E-gold came next, digital gold grams, backed by real bullion, millions of users, thriving black and grey markets, until 2007. The US government indicted the founders, seized the servers. One pillar, one raid. 5 million accounts turned to ash overnight. Every attempt followed the same pattern. Brilliant cryptography, centralized control, inevitable strangulation. The dream didn't die of technical failure. It was murdered by single points of failure. Then came the crisis the banks themselves created. Lehman, Bear Stearns, AIG. The pillars of finance cracked, and governments didn't punish the architects. They printed money, trillions, handed it to the same institutions that lit the match. In that moment of maximum hypocrisy, someone watching decided, no more pillars, no more trust, only proof. On October 31st, 2008, something unusual appeared on the cypherpunk mailing list. No introduction, no build-up, just a quiet email with a 9-page attachment. Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. It landed like a stone in still water, silent, dense, and impossible to ignore. To the untrained eye, it looked technical, dry, almost minimalistic. But under that simplicity was an idea the world had been failing to solve for decades. An idea that lived at the heart of digital money. How do you create an online currency without trusting anyone? This was the Byzantine general's problem. A puzzle older than the internet. Imagine a group of generals trying to coordinate an attack. They can't meet. Messages can be intercepted, forged, delayed, or lost. One lie from one general, and the entire mission collapses. Digital money had the same problem. How do you get a network of strangers, some honest, some dishonest, to agree on a single history of transactions? For years, every attempt fell apart. Someone always had to be trusted. A server, a company, a founder. And that trust became the crack in the pillar. Then Satoshi offered a solution so strange, so counterintuitive, that it reframed the entire problem. Satoshi replaced trust with work, proof of work, A system where computers compete to solve mathematical puzzles. Puzzles so difficult they require real-world energy, time, and computation. The winner earns the right to write the next page of the ledger, not because they're trusted, but because they spent something to prove it. Energy becomes honesty, cost becomes security, work becomes truth. This was the breakthrough, a trustless consensus mechanism, a ledger anchored not by authority, but by physics. 2 months later, Satoshi turned theory into reality. On January 3rd, 2009, he mined the Genesis block, the first block in the Bitcoin blockchain. Inside it, he embedded a message, a headline from the Times newspaper: Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. It wasn't just a timestamp. It was a statement, a reminder of why Bitcoin needed to exist and what it was built to resist. A new system born directly from the failures of the old. This was the elegant solution, the moment the impossible became inevitable. January 2009. The idea became executable. Satoshi released Bitcoin v0.1, a modest zip file posted quietly on a mailing list. No marketing, no announcement, just code, a fragile first heartbeat. For a brief moment, Bitcoin's entire universe fit inside one machine, one CPU, one miner, one anonymous creator staring at a terminal, testing if his system could stand on its own legs. And somewhere else in the world, another machine woke up. Hal Finney, cypherpunk pioneer, maker of the first reusable proof-of-work system, a legend long before Bitcoin existed. When Hal saw Satoshi's email, he didn't hesitate. He downloaded the code, compiled it, ran it. These two machines, one belonging to a nameless inventor, the other to a man who had spent decades defending digital freedom, became the first nodes of a network that would one day span continents. Then came the moment that made history. Block 170, the first Bitcoin transaction. Satoshi sent 10 BTC to Hal, a tiny gesture, the digital equivalent of a handshake, a spark traveling across a single wire. In that small transfer, barely worth fractions of a cent at the time the world's first peer-to-peer digital money truly lived. Two people, two computers, one transaction that proved the system worked. No bank, no third party, no overseer. Just code and trust in math. Bitcoin's earliest days were almost comically small. A handful of enthusiasts, emails traded like lab notes, bugs fixed manually, blocks mined by hobby computers running in bedrooms and basements. Yet the potential was infinite, and both Satoshi and Hal saw it, and the mystery only deepened. Hal lived in the same small town as Dorian Nakamoto, a man later misidentified as Bitcoin's creator. Yet Hal never met Satoshi, never saw him, never heard his voice. Everything happened through text, a ghost communicating through code. But from that tiny network, that fragile first handshake, a revolution began. 2010, 2011. The candle becomes a wildfire. Price ticks up, forums fill, code commits multiply. The project is no longer a secret between ghosts. It is becoming a movement, and one man cannot steer it from the shadows anymore. Satoshi chooses an heir, Gavin Andresen. Trusted, brilliant, American. The keys are handed over. The baton passed in silence. But the handoff comes with a chill. The more visible Bitcoin becomes, the more dangerous it is for its creator to have a face. The hunt begins. Journalists sniff blood. Programmers trade theories in the dark. Every early cypherpunk is measured, weighed, suspected. Because history taught them what happens when the creator has a name. David Chaum, harassed until he fled the country. Douglas Jackson, arrested, e-gold destroyed. Show your face, and the state crushes it. First serious suspect, Nick Szabo, the man who invented smart contracts, who wrote BitGold in 1998, a blueprint so close to Bitcoin that reading them side by side feels like seeing the same mind at different ages. Stylometry screams match, phrasing, spacing, obsession with gold metaphors and Austrian economics. Szabo denies it, vehemently, almost too vehemently. The accusations multiply, the network keeps growing, and Satoshi goes quiet. Fewer posts, shorter emails, the last ones feel haunted. There's more work to do on DOS attacks. I've moved on to other things. He is erasing himself in real time, before the masks can stick. He saw the hunters coming and chose oblivion over capture. On December 2010, WikiLeaks, starved of funds by PayPal and Visa, turns to Bitcoin. Donations flood in. The hornet's nest is kicked. Satoshi breaks silence on the forum, one rare panicked post. It would have been nice to get this attention in any other context. The swarm is headed towards us. He saw it coming. States do not tolerate ungovernable money. Not when it shields dissidents. The project was now too dangerous to be tied to one man, one target. April 26, 2011. The handover, private emails to Gavin Andresen and the tiny circle of developers, source code access, the network alert key, the kill switch only Satoshi held. Everything transferred, quietly, irrevocably. And then the final words, cold, absolute. To Gavin, I've moved on to other things. It's in good hands with you and everyone. I probably won't be around in the future. No goodbye, no explanation, no return. The persona ends mid-sentence, as if the human behind it simply ceased. Bitcoin grew into a trillion-dollar force. Wars were fought over it. Nations adopted it. Fortunes rose and fell. And the creator watched none of it, spoke none of it, touched none of it. Absolute silence. The deepest absence in modern history. He didn't just leave. He vanished, so completely that even the echo forgot the voice. March 6th, 2014. Silence creates hunger, and hunger turns savage. Newsweek drops the bomb. Cover story, the face behind Bitcoin. Dorian Prentice Satoshi Nakamoto, 64 years old, retired physicist, model train enthusiast, lived 10 minutes from Hal Finney, born with the middle name Satoshi. The media decided, case closed. They descended like locusts. Dozens of reporters camped on his lawn, helicopters overhead, strangers chasing his car screaming questions. A quiet man who fixed computers for the government, now accused of inventing money that threatened governments. He told one reporter, exhausted, "I am no longer involved in that, and I cannot discuss it." The press heard confession. They heard nothing. An innocent man, hounded for a name he never chose, all because the world demanded a face and wouldn't wait for the truth. Hours later, the ghost spoke once. Just 7 words. Proof he was still watching. Proof they got it wrong. And then silence again. Deeper this time. They wanted a villain or a hero. They got neither. Satoshi Nakamoto vanished, not by accident, not from fear, but by design. For years, people asked, why would the creator of a financial revolution walk away? Why leave 1 million bitcoins untouched? Why abandon the fame, the power, the wealth? Because the disappearance wasn't a mystery. It was the final feature. Bitcoin could not survive with a leader. Not after DigiCash collapsed with its founder. Not after e-gold was crushed by the authorities. Not after every centralized attempt at digital money had died at the exact moment its creator became a target. A head can be pressured, a leader can be arrested, a founder can be corrupted. But a ghost is untouchable. By walking away, Satoshi shifted trust from a human to the code, from personality to protocol, from a single point of failure to a network that no one can knock down. His absence became Bitcoin's armor. No headquarters, no face to plaster on newspaper covers. Just math, just incentives, just a system that lives or dies by its own internal logic. That was the revolution, not the invention, the renunciation. Because the moment Satoshi left, Bitcoin stopped being a project and became a phenomenon, a thing that belonged to no one, and therefore to everyone. And yet there is still a shadow, a reminder that the architect once existed, the unspent 1 million Bitcoin, sitting silently in the blockchain, never touched, never moved, a digital monument to restraint. Most legacies are built from what a person creates. Satoshi's legacy is built from what he abandoned. A currency without a ruler, a network without a face, a monument without a statue. And somewhere, in the untouched silence of that million-coin wallet, the truth remains. Sometimes, the greatest power is letting go.